Most people believe you need to be an elite athlete to climb high-altitude mountains. That assumption has killed more beginners than altitude sickness ever will. Welcome to a world where ordinary people achieve extraordinary heights, where weekend warriors stand on summits that pierce the clouds, and where the biggest barrier isn't your fitness level, but the myths that keep you trapped at sea level. I'm about to reveal something that will completely change how you think about high-altitude mountaineering forever. Here's what the climbing industry doesn't want you to know. Every year, thousands of complete beginners successfully summit peaks over 16,000 feet. Not experienced mountaineers, not professional climbers, regular people who discovered the secret that separates those who dream from those who stand on top of the world. But there's something else. Something darker, hidden in the data that most climbers never see. The mountains I'm about to show you have claimed lives not because they're technically difficult, but because people approach them with the wrong mindset. And by the end of this journey, you'll understand why that mindset shift is literally the difference between life and death at altitude. We're going to explore 7 mountains that anyone can climb. But here's the twist that changes everything. The easiest mountain on this list has a higher success rate than Mount Washington in New Hampshire. The most challenging one has better survival statistics than driving to your local grocery store. Yet most people will never attempt either because of a fundamental misunderstanding about what high-altitude climbing actually requires. Stay with me, because what I discovered about these mountains will shatter every assumption you have about who belongs on high peaks. And there's one mountain on this list that holds a secret so profound, it will change not just how you approach climbing, but how you approach every challenge in your life. Let's begin with a question that haunts every aspiring mountaineer lying awake at 3 in the morning. What separates the people who summit from the people who turn back? The answer isn't what you think, and it definitely isn't what the gear companies want you to believe. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a massive wilderness looking up at a peak that disappears into the clouds. The air is thin, your heart is pounding, and everything inside you is screaming that you don't belong here. That feeling, it's not weakness, it's your survival instinct doing exactly what it's supposed to do. But here's what changes everything. The people who succeed aren't the ones who ignore that voice. They're the ones who understand what it's really telling them. High-altitude mountaineering operates on a completely different set of rules than anything you've experienced at sea level. The air contains 30% less oxygen. Your body burns energy twice as fast. Your brain function starts declining the moment you step off the plane. And yet, every single year, accountants from Ohio and teachers from Nebraska stand on summits that professional athletes fail to reach. How is that possible? The answer lies in understanding what high altitude actually means. We're not talking about technical rock climbing or ice climbing or any of the extreme sports you see in documentaries. We're talking about walking. Slow, methodical, relentless forward progress in an environment that tests every system in your body. The mountains I'm going to show you exist in that sweet spot where challenge meets accessibility. They're high enough to change you forever, but forgiving enough that proper preparation matters more than natural talent. And there's something about each of these peaks that makes them perfect stepping stones to bigger adventures. But first, let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a 42-year-old marketing manager from Denver who had never climbed anything higher than her apartment stairs. She was overweight, out of shape, and terrified of heights. 6 months later, she was standing on the summit of a 19,000-foot peak, crying tears of joy as the sunrise painted the world gold beneath her feet. What happened between those two moments contains the blueprint that anyone can follow. The transformation didn't happen in the gym. It didn't happen because she bought expensive gear or hired a personal trainer. It happened because she understood something fundamental about how the human body adapts to extreme environments. And once you understand this principle, these mountains stop being impossible dreams and start being inevitable destinations. Here's where it gets interesting. The altitude scale that determines whether a mountain is accessible or extreme isn't what most people think. High altitude is defined as 8,000 to 12,000 feet. Very high altitude runs from 12,000 to 18,000 feet. Extremely high altitude begins at 18,000 feet and keeps climbing until your body literally cannot survive without supplemental oxygen. Every mountain on our list falls within that very high altitude category, which means your body can adapt to them naturally. No oxygen tanks, no technical climbing gear, no years of training. Just your body, your mind, and a systematic approach to acclimatization that works the same way for everyone. But there's a catch that changes everything. Age, fitness level, and previous experience have almost nothing to do with who gets altitude sickness and who doesn't. I've seen marathon runners collapse at 14,000 feet while 60-year-old retirees cruise past them toward the summit. The factors that actually determine success are completely different from what you'd expect. Your body's response to altitude is largely genetic. Some people adapt quickly, others struggle. But here's the secret that levels the playing field. Proper acclimatization eliminates most of those genetic advantages. Follow the right protocol, and your body will adapt regardless of your starting point. The protocol is deceptively simple. Never gain more than 2,000 feet of sleeping elevation in a single day above 8,000 feet. Build in rest days every 3,000 to 4,000 feet of elevation gain. Listen to your body and descend immediately if you develop symptoms of severe altitude sickness. That's it. Follow those rules and these mountains become accessible to anyone with basic fitness and mental determination. Now let's talk about the mountains themselves. Each peak on this list was chosen for a specific reason. They represent different types of high-altitude challenges, different environments, and different skill sets you'll need to develop. But they all share one critical characteristic. They're forgiving enough that mistakes won't kill you, but challenging enough that you'll be genuinely tested. The first mountain will surprise you. It's located on a continent most people don't associate with serious mountaineering, yet it stands taller than anything in the lower 48 United States. The approach requires no technical skills, the weather is predictable, and the infrastructure supports climbers of all experience levels. But there's something about this mountain that makes it the perfect introduction to high-altitude climbing. The second mountain sits in the most famous mountain range on Earth, yet most climbers have never heard of it. It offers everything you'd want from a Himalayan experience without the crowds, the expense, or the death zone conditions that make headline news. What makes this peak special isn't just its accessibility. It's what happens to your confidence once you've stood on its summit. The third mountain holds a record that will blow your mind. It's the highest point on an entire continent, yet the technical difficulty is rated as a walk-up. Thousands of complete beginners summit this peak every year, but the mountain demands something from you that has nothing to do with climbing skills. Master what this mountain teaches, and you'll have the foundation for any high-altitude objective in the world. But here's where our journey takes an unexpected turn. These mountains aren't just training grounds for bigger adventures, they're destinations in their own right, each offering experiences that will reshape how you see yourself and what you're capable of achieving. And there's one mountain on our list that holds a secret so powerful it explains why some people become lifelong mountaineers after a single summit, while others never climb again. That secret has to do with what happens to your brain at altitude. The combination of reduced oxygen, physical challenge, and stunning natural beauty creates a neurochemical response that's impossible to replicate at sea level. It's not just endorphins or adrenaline, it's something deeper, something that changes your relationship with fear, discomfort, and your own limitations. The people who discover this secret don't just become better climbers, they become better at everything. More resilient at work, more confident in relationships, more willing to take calculated risks in pursuit of their dreams. The mountains teach lessons that transfer to every aspect of life, but only if you approach them with the right mindset. What is that mindset? It's the difference between conquest and partnership. Most people approach mountains as adversaries to be defeated. The successful climbers understand that mountains are teachers, and the lessons they offer are only available to students who show up with humility, respect, and genuine curiosity about their own capabilities. This mindset shift is what separates the climbers who thrive from those who merely survive. And it leads us to our first mountain, a peak that challenges everything you think you know about continental climbing. We're flying now across vast steppes and ancient valleys toward a mountain that stands alone against the sky like a frozen fortress. This is Mount Elbrus in Russia's Caucasus Mountains. At 18,410 feet, it's the highest peak in Europe, yet it welcomes beginners with open arms. But here's what makes Elbrus truly remarkable. The technical difficulty is so minimal that climbers often describe it as a very long, very cold hike. No vertical rock faces, no knife-edge ridges, no death-defying exposure, just endless snow slopes that climb steadily toward a summit that offers views across 2 continents. The mountain sits dormant now, but Elbrus is actually a massive volcano. The western summit, where most climbers aim, rises from glacial fields that have remained virtually unchanged for thousands of years. What strikes first-time visitors isn't the climbing difficulty. It's the sheer scale of everything. The approach alone crosses terrain that dwarfs entire mountain ranges in other parts of the world. Most expeditions follow the normal route from the south side, utilising a cable car system that carries climbers to 11,000 feet before they even start walking. From there, it's a matter of following established camps, acclimatizing properly, and maintaining steady progress through increasingly thin air. The infrastructure is surprisingly developed, with huts and rescue services that provide security for nervous beginners. But Elbrus teaches something that no amount of gym training can replicate. It's your first real lesson in what happens to your body when oxygen levels drop below critical thresholds. Your heart rate will spike doing simple tasks. Your appetite will disappear just when you need calories most. Your sleep will become restless and unsatisfying. These aren't signs of weakness. They're normal physiological responses that every climber must learn to manage. The weather on Elbrus can shift from perfect conditions to life-threatening storms within hours. Mountains that prove the impossible is just another word for unprepared. The secret was never about being superhuman. It was about understanding that these peaks don't care about your resume or your fears. They only respond to respect, preparation, and the courage to take that first step toward the summit.